In order to stop the problem of homelessness in the streets of Los Angeles, first you have to stop the people from falling into homelessness. I mean, if you start to clean before you stop the leak, it doesn't work. The worst is what living in the street do to these people. They're alone, they are exposed. By preventing them from falling into homelessness, you save a lot of money and effort. The main reason why people fall into homelessness is because of the lack of affordable housing. The government is obviously not doing enough, and they don't want to spend enough money, and they are slow. So while they are voting and waiting for bureaucracy, people are dying in the street. So what can we do to solve this problem? The city of Los Angeles is very low density, and there is a lot of free space. 500,000 lots in Los Angeles are zoned low density or single family housing. So what does it mean? It means that only one dwelling can be built in these lots. This type of lots emerged in 1904, and since it didn't stop increasing. So this leaves the major area of the city unbuilt but occupied, and it is about 85% of the city lands. So what is exactly a single-family residential lot? It's basically what you see in every movie. A front yard, a house, a garage, and a backyard. By the law, these dwellings have to be maximum 2-story high. The land coverage has to be from 40 to 50%, and the size of the lot is from 6,000 to 10,000 meter squares. So we have an interesting problem here. A lot of people need housing, and there is a lot of free space. They had many names: granny flats, backyard homes, accessory dwelling units. Those are not new. People have been building them in their backyards since a long time ago. In the 1980s, about 42,000 backyard houses were housing 200,000 people. What is new is the law that regulates them. Until now, it was possible to build a secondary dwelling units, but the laws were too strict and discouraged people from doing it. So in 2016 and 2017, the government passed two bills. The AB 2099, the SB 229. So by this, the government kind of relaxed the laws, made it easier to build secondary dwelling units. So for example, if you wanted to build an accessory dwelling units, you had to build an additional parking space. But now with this law, if you live less than half a mile from public transport, you don't have to do it, which saves a lot of money. They also established design standards that, when met, allow people to get their permit much more easier directly at the city planning office, and they don't have to go through so much bureaucracy to get their permit. So it's much faster and much cheaper. So the consequences of this law is an enormous raise in application for accessory dwelling units, from 80 in 2016 to nearly 2,000 in 2017. So what is a backyard house or an accessory dwelling unit? So backyard house can have many forms. They can be attached to the previous house, they can be detached, they can be an extension of the garage, for example. They just have to respect some rules. They cannot be more than 100 meter squares. They have to be less than 50% of the surface of the current house. They have to be 1.5 meters from the property limits and 3 meters from the current house. Accessory dwelling units have a lot of advantages. They are affordable, they are fast to build, they can create an additional source of income for low-income families or elderly people. As people are moving into the neighborhood, they also create more local services. They permit to create housing close to people's jobs. They allow to preserve green area outside of the city by avoiding the construction of additional social housing. They are flexible and can adapt to the people's needs. Some people won't take it as an advantage, but in my opinion, it also permits a social mix. By putting people together that are from different backgrounds, different cultures. So California started like this, and now it is like that. And if backyard housing continues to grow in every backyard of Angelinos, then years after years, this incremental process will permit to fill all empty space of the city and densify the whole grid. Los Angeles is not the first city to encourage backyard homes. San Francisco, for example, did it a few years ago, and the results are quite impressive. In 2013, 2014, and 2015, only about 5 accessory dwelling units were built. But in 2017, they built 205 of them. To encourage more people to build backyard housing, the government started a few pilot programs. If you want to build an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard, you can receive a $75,000 loan from the government. In return, you must agree to host a formerly homeless person for at least 10 years. Another program is done by LMS, which is a non-profit architectural company, and they propose to build you an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard nearly for free if you accept to host someone that is very low income for at least 5 years. So even if the number of applications rose this past year, there is still a lot of efforts to make. It is still very complicated for a homeowner to get a permit for an accessory dwelling unit, and they still have to pay a lot of fees for it. So finally, I want to say that homelessness is not going to be solved by backyard housing, but it is for sure a way to improve the situation. So that's it for today. I wanted to thank a lot UCLA City Lab for their documents. Even if I didn't meet them, the documents were really interesting and really helpful. I hope you liked the video, I hope you learned something. Like it, share it, subscribe to the channel please, and I'll see you next week. Bye.